pulled up to the old farm road and froze. Yellow tape marked the fence line. Surveyors poked metal stakes into soil I'd walked barefoot as a kid. A massive "for sale" sign swayed in the wind. My father stood beside a woman in a blazer, nodding as she pointed to a map. My heart hammered against my ribs. I jumped out, boots hitting gravel hard. "Dad, what's happening?" He turned, face blank. "Riley, this doesn't concern you anymore." The realtor smiled awkwardly. "The buyer's wiring funds today. It's closing tomorrow." My knees nearly buckled. This land was mine. Grandpa Henry left it to me. I stared at my father, searching for a hint of guilt. Nothing, just cold eyes and a tight jaw. 6 months earlier, I'd stood in Grandpa's tiny church for his funeral. The preacher's voice echoed off the wooden beams. Afterward, his lawyer handed me a yellowed envelope. "Henry wanted you to have this personally." Inside was the will. Clear as daylight, the land goes to Riley Monroe. My father had smiled then, squeezed my shoulder. "We'll handle the paperwork as a family. Don't worry about the legal stuff." I'd believed him, trusted him. I handed over the envelope, thinking he'd file it properly. Now, standing here with surveyors carving up my inheritance, I realized I never saw that registered copy. My stomach twisted with dread. What had he done? I drove straight to the county records office, hands shaking on the wheel. The clerk, a tired woman named Bethany, pulled up the property file. She clicked through screens, frowning. "The deed was transferred to Victor Monroe 4 months ago." My father's name, my breath caught. "That's impossible. My grandpa left it to me." She zoomed in on a signature line. My name was there, Riley Monroe, scrawled in shaky handwriting, but I never signed anything. Bethany leaned closer, voice dropping to a whisper. "Honestly, that signature doesn't look right. You might want to get a lawyer." I stumbled out into the parking lot, head spinning. Forged. He'd forged my signature. I sat in my car, staring at the dashboard. My phone buzzed, a text from my stepmother, "Deanne, stop causing drama. Your father did what's best." Rage flooded through me, hot and sharp. I drove home, tore through boxes in my closet. Old birthday cards, school photos, random junk. Then I found it, a dusty envelope tucked inside Grandpa's old tackle box, the one he'd given me secretly at the hospital. "Keep this safe, Riley, just in case." Inside was the original will, sealed and notarized. My name in bold letters, the real deed. My hands trembled as I held it up to the light. This was my proof. This was my weapon. I drove to my father's house, the envelope clutched tight. Diane opened the door, arms crossed. "You've got nerve showing up here." I pushed past her. "Where's Dad?" He appeared in the hallway, face hard. "Riley, leave." I held up the envelope. "You forged my signature. You stole Grandpa's land." He didn't even flinch. "You're being dramatic. That land's been in this family for generations. I'm protecting it." Diane smirked behind him. "You should be grateful he let you live there rent-free." I turned to leave, throat tight. As I reached the door, I heard him mutter to Diane, "Once the sale closes tomorrow, she's out of our lives for good." My heart turned to stone. The next morning, I sat across from Mr. Calloway, Grandpa's old lawyer. He adjusted his glasses, studying the will. "This is legitimate, signed, sealed, notarized. Your grandfather made his wishes very clear." Relief washed over me until he continued. "But your father filed a lost will claim 3 months ago, said the original was destroyed in a house fire." I blinked. "There was no fire." He nodded grimly. "I know. But legally, he convinced the court to proceed with probate under his claim. The problem is, he can't legally sell property with a contested will, unless the buyer never finds out." I leaned forward. "What if I show up at the closing?" Mr. Calloway's lips twitched into a smile. "Then things get interesting." I spent the afternoon digging. The buyer was a developer named Preston Blake, my father's old business rival from 20 years ago. Ironic. I found Preston's office number and hesitated. Should I warn him, or wait until tomorrow and drop the bomb in person? I chose the latter. I wanted to see my father's face when everything collapsed. That evening, I drove past the land. The sold sticker gleamed on the sign. My chest ached. Grandpa had walked these fields every morning, taught me to plant corn, told me stories under the big oak tree. "This land is your future, Riley. Protect it." I whispered into the wind. "I will, Grandpa, I promise." My childhood friend, Casey, worked at the county records office. I called her, voice shaking. "I need your help." We met at a diner. Over coffee, I explained everything. Casey's eyes widened. "That's fraud, Riley, serious fraud." She leaned in. I can pull the original filing logs. If pages are missing or altered, we'll know. 2 hours later, she texted me a photo, a tampered registry log, pages torn out, dates scratched over. My father had been thorough, but not perfect. If you have the original deed, Casey wrote, you can stop this sale cold. I stared at the envelope on my passenger seat. Tomorrow, I'd walk into that closing, and I'd burn his lies to the ground. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat at my kitchen table, the original deed spread out before me. Grandpa's signature, bold and confident. The notary seal, official and unbroken, my name written in his careful handwriting. I traced the letters with my finger, tears blurring my vision. He'd known. Somehow he'd known my father couldn't be trusted. That's why he'd given me this secret copy. Just in case, he'd said. I folded the deed carefully, slid it back into the envelope. Tomorrow, justice. Tomorrow, the truth. My phone buzzed. A text from my father, don't even think about showing up tomorrow. This is a family business. I smiled coldly, typed back, see you there. The next morning, my father called. His voice was smooth, fake friendly. Riley, sweetheart, let's talk. Come over, we'll work this out like family. I almost laughed. I'm busy, Dad, he sighed. Look, I know you're upset, but this sale is good for everyone, trust me. I stayed silent, letting him talk. Then I heard Diane's voice in the background. Just tell her we'll claim she forged that old deed. Who's gonna believe her? My father hushed her, but it was too late. I hit a record on my phone app. What was that, Dad? He stumbled. Nothing, just look, stay home tomorrow for your own good. I hung up, checked the recording, crystal clear, perfect. Mr. Calloway met me at his office. I handed him everything, the original deed, the recording, Casey's evidence of tampering. He spread it all across his desk, eyes gleaming. This is airtight. Your father won't know what hit him. We rehearsed the plan. I'd walk in during the closing. Wait for the right moment, then present the evidence. Stay calm, he advised. Let the facts speak. I nodded, though my hands wouldn't stop shaking. That night, my father texted again, stay away tomorrow or I'll make sure you regret it. I stared at the screen. Then I blocked his number. No more threats. No more lies. Tomorrow, I'd take back what was mine. I didn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying memories. Grandpa taught me to fish. His rough hands showed me how to tie a hook, his laugh deep and warm. This land's been in our family for 3 generations, Riley. Your great-grandpa built the barn with his own hands. Your grandma planted those apple trees. It's more than dirt and grass, it's our story. I'd promised him I'd protect it. I'd failed once by trusting my father, but not again. At 3 a.m., my phone buzzed. Anonymous number. The message read, he's already moving the money offshore. My blood ran cold. I forwarded it to Mr. Calloway. He replied instantly, we move at dawn. The closing was scheduled for 10 a.m. at a glass-walled office downtown. I arrived early, parked across the street. Watched my father walk in, confident, shoulders back. Preston Blake followed, a broad man in an expensive suit, the realtor, clipboard in hand. Mr. Calloway squeezed my shoulder. Ready? I nodded, gripping the folder. We walked in just as my father reached for the pen. The realtor looked up, startled. Can I help you? I stepped forward, voice steady despite my racing heart. Yes. You're selling land that doesn't belong to him. My father's face went white. Preston Blake frowned. Excuse me? I placed the folder on the table. This man forged my signature. That land is mine. Silence. Nobody moved. Then my father laughed, sharp, bitter. Riley, don't be ridiculous. I opened the folder, pulled out the original deed. The notary seal caught the light. Preston leaned forward, studying it. The realtor's eyes widened. Mr. Calloway spoke calmly. This is the legitimate will signed by Henry Monroe and properly notarized. It names Riley Monroe as sole heir to the property. My father's jaw tightened. That's fake. She made that herself, probably printed it online. Preston looked between us, confused. The realtor backed away from the table. We need to verify this. I met my father's eyes. Go ahead, verify it, I'll wait. His face turned red. Fury boiled beneath his skin, but he said nothing. I pulled out my phone, tapped the recording. My father's voice filled the room. Once the sale closes, she's out of our lives for good. Then Diane's voice. Just tell her we'll claim she forged that old deed. Preston Blake stood abruptly, chair scraping the floor. What the hell is this? My father lunged for my folder. That's illegal. You can't record private conversations. Preston's hand shot out, stopping him. Actually, in this state, one-party consent is legal. And even if it wasn't, you just admitted to fraud on tape. The realtor was already packing her things. "I'm out. This deal is void." My father's face was drained of color. He looked at me, then at Preston, then at the door. Trapped. Preston Blake slammed his briefcase shut. "I don't do business with liars. This deal is canceled." He turned to me. "Miss Monroe, I'm sorry you got caught up in this." My father tried to speak. "Preston, wait, let me explain," but Preston was already walking out, phone to his ear. The realtor followed, heels clicking fast. Mr. Calloway gathered the documents. "We'll need to report this to the county, and possibly the district attorney." My father finally looked at me, really looked. His face crumbled. "Riley, you don't understand. I was trying to save the farm, taxes, debts." I cut him off. "You were trying to save yourself at my expense." I walked out, head high. Behind me, I heard him sink into a chair. Within a week, the county opened an investigation. My father's assets were frozen pending review. Mr. Calloway filed motions to restore the deed to my name. The legal system moved slowly, but it moved. Then Diane showed up at my apartment, mascara streaked, voice shaking. "You've ruined us. The bank froze everything. We can't even pay the mortgage." I crossed my arms. "You helped him forge my signature. You knew what he was doing." She crumbled. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." He told me it was the only way to keep the family together. I didn't feel sorry for her. I felt nothing. "You made your choice." She left, sobbing. My phone buzzed. "Mr. Calloway, hearing scheduled for next week." The night before the hearing, Diane called. "Riley, please, I'll testify. I'll tell them everything." I met her at a coffee shop. She looked hollow, exhausted. "He planned to transfer everything into my name, hide assets from creditors. I didn't want to, but..." She broke down. I recorded her confession, every word. "Why are you telling me this now?" She wiped her eyes. "Because it's wrong. I see that now. Your grandpa was a good man. He loved you." I saved the recording, thanked her, and left. I didn't forgive her, but I respected her honesty. The next morning, I handed the recording to Mr. Calloway. He smiled grimly. "This seals it." The courtroom was small, stuffy. My father sat with his lawyer, jaw clenched. I sat beside Mr. Calloway, hands folded. The judge reviewed the evidence, the original deed, the forged signature, the recordings, Diane's confession. Her testimony was damning. She admitted everything, the forged paperwork, the offshore account plans, the lies. My father's lawyer tried to argue. "Your Honor, my client was under financial stress." The judge held up a hand. "Financial stress doesn't justify fraud." She banged the gavel. "The land is hereby restored to Riley Monroe. All fraudulent documents are nullified." My father stared at the floor. As we filed out, he muttered under his breath, "You'll regret humiliating me like this." I didn't look back. News spread fast in our small town. By the weekend, everyone knew. I walked into the diner and conversations stopped. Then Mrs. Patterson, who ran the bakery, stood and hugged me. "Your grandpa would be so proud." Others joined. Old friends of Grandpa's pulled me aside, sharing stories. "Victor tried this with his uncle years ago, tried to take his share of the family business." I hadn't known. My father had a history, a pattern. I felt sick. How many people had he hurt? That evening, a letter arrived. Fancy envelope, embossed logo. I opened it carefully. It was from Preston Blake. "Miss Monroe, I'd like to discuss a partnership opportunity. Let's honor your grandfather's legacy together." I stared at the letter, heart pounding. I met Preston at a cafe. He was direct. "I want to help you develop the land, build something meaningful, maybe a community center or a farm co-op, in your grandfather's name." I stirred my coffee slowly. "Grandpa always said, never sell your roots." Preston nodded. "I'm not asking you to sell. I'm asking you to grow." I thought about it. The land was mine, legally and rightfully, but what would I do with it? I was one person. Preston had resources, connections. "Let me think about it," I said. He handed me his card. "Take your time." As I drove home, Grandpa's voice echoed in my mind. "This land is your future, Riley. Protect it." But maybe protecting it meant building something bigger, something lasting. A week later, I stood alone on the land. Rain clouds gathered overhead. Thunder rumbled. I walked to the big oak tree, the one Grandpa and I used to sit under. The bark was rough beneath my fingers. Raindrops began to fall, cold and steady. I tilted my head back, letting them hit my face. This wasn't just about winning. It was about freedom. Freedom from my father's manipulation. Freedom to choose my own path. The storm picked up, wind whipping my hair. Lightning split the sky. And then headlights. A truck pulled up. My father stepped out, drenched, wild-eyed. My heart thudded. Not again, not now. I stood my ground, waiting. He stumbled toward me, shouting over the rain. "Raleigh, please, I'm begging you." I didn't move. He fell to his knees. "I'm sorry, I was desperate. The debts, the pressure, I didn't know what else to do." I looked down at him, this man who raised me, who taught me to ride a bike, who also lied, cheated, and stole from me. "You had a choice," I said quietly. "You chose greed." He grabbed my arm. "You're choosing strangers over blood, over family." I pulled away. "Blood doesn't make you family, Dad." "Honor does. Grandpa knew that. That's why he left the land to me." He stared, broken. Then he stood, shoulders sagging. "I hope it was worth it." He walked back to his truck, drove away. I stood in the rain, finally free. 6 months passed. I restored Grandpa's old farmhouse, fixed the porch, painted the shutters, planted flowers in the garden. I installed a wooden sign at the entrance. "Henry's Promised Land in memory of Grandpa." The first crops sprouted, green and strong. I hired local workers, paid them fair wages. The community pitched in. Mrs. Patterson donated baking supplies for a farm stand. Casey helped with marketing. Slowly, the land became something beautiful, something alive. One afternoon, as I watered the tomato plants, I heard a truck pull up. I turned, shading my eyes. It was Preston Blake. He stepped out, holding a folder. "I brought something for you." My heart raced. "What is it?" Preston opened the folder. Inside was a donation contract. "I want to fund a community center on your land. No strings attached. You manage it. I'll cover the construction costs." I stared, speechless. "Why?" He smiled. "Because your grandpa was a good man, and so are you. This town needs something like this." Tears blurred my vision. I looked at the land, the fields, the oak tree, the farmhouse. Grandpa's dream was alive, and I'd protected it, not just from my father, but for everyone. I signed the contract, shook Preston's hand. That evening, I sat under the oak tree, watching the sunset. My father had tried to sell my inheritance, but in the end, I didn't sell anything. I reclaimed my peace, and I built a legacy.